I've got an interesting one for Aquaholic today. This is a Broom 450. It's up for sale with Berthon up in Lymington. And the reason I wanted to show you this boat is because it's an aft cabin configuration, and that's quite rare on 45-foot boats. Now, what do I mean by aft cabin? Well, the easiest way to explain is to actually show you the boat next door, because this is a traditional cabin cruiser style. You've got your cabins at the front, they stop about here, about 3/4 of the way back, and then your cockpit is this well behind. What they've done on this Broom 450 is they've brought the accommodation the whole length of the boat. It's right up to this bulkhead, so it does give you a tremendous amount of accommodation. So we're going to have a quick look on board. I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to explain the pros and cons of an aft cabin boat versus aft cockpit. I'm just walking past this interesting thing here, or this mechanism. This is a davit system for a dinghy, so you can hook a dinghy onto here and it hangs on the back of the boat, and then this whole thing hinges down to launch your dinghy into the water. So that's quite cunning. Okay, we're going to head on up these steps. Now, the big disadvantage with an aft cabin boat like this normally is the fact that because the aft deck is raised, it tends to be a bit exposed. But Broom have got around that rather cleverly, because what they've done is they put this big coaming around it, and there's a canopy over it, and so this whole area can be enclosed. So that neatly gets around the one obvious disadvantage of an aft cabin layout rather cleverly. We'll take a quick walk around the deck, and then we'll come back into here and I'll show you the accommodation, because that is my favourite bit. Okay, really good wide side decks on here. I like this handrail that they've put as well, so it's a nice boat to move around. Now, Brooms are made in Norfolk in the UK, and they're quite a traditional sort of build, so it's not super avant-garde loft living style interiors, but that in a very great way is part of its charm. It's what people like. They are a proper boaty boat, and up here it looks the part as well. Okay, let's head on back. Now, a lot of boats of this sort of size have flybridges, and that means you've got a helm up on the top of this saloon area here. What they've done on this one is they haven't done that. Instead, they put a big windscreen at the back, and then as we head inside, you'll see that this has got not just your cockpit but also your helm. So it makes for quite a social layout. It puts everybody together. But the other thing it does, it keeps the height down. If you had a flybridge up above there, the whole boat would be a lot higher. And the idea of this is that if you are in inland waters, this is a great boat because it's lower than a traditional flybridge boat. And in fact, this arch here will actually hinge down flat on hydraulics to give you a bit more space. Now, this boat, believe it or not, is a 2007, but it's in fantastic condition. Someone spent a huge amount of money on this. All of this has been reupholstered. This has been added, this has all been reupholstered, and then lots of nice little touches like this really cool helm seat. And this, which normally would have been traditional walnut, has been redone in carbon fibre. So there's been a bit of money spent. All the Raymarine gear across here, and again you've got that carbon fibre insert, if you can see it, right the way across there. Now, the engines on this boat, they are a pair of Volvo Penta D9 500 horsepower engines, so you've got about 1,000 horsepower in this boat, and that's giving it about 28 knots flat out and cruising at about 22, so it's a decent fast offshore boat. And this seat here, which is very social, up against the front, obviously faces the back. When you're underway, you can just drop this backrest over, and now you've got forward facing seating next to the helm. That works well. Okay, let's head on down. I'll show you the interior, because the interior on this boat, I think, is the real big news. Slip my shoes off and we'll head on inside. Now, as part of that refurbishment, she's been all recarpeted, all the leather has been treated, and it looks fantastic down here. Now, because you've got that fairly enclosed helm position on the aft deck, there's no need for a lower helm, whereas if you had a flybridge, which is a bit more exposed, of course, you tend to then want a helm down here as well. And what that means is it frees up masses of space. In fact, if you look around this boat, you have to remind yourself that it's 45 feet, because it just works so well and gives you so much space. This is your lounging area, and then this makes for a nice dining space over here, and you've got sideboard down on this side. Another part of the refurbishment was to put this big TV on the aft bulkhead, so at night, if you want to watch a movie, that's a great place to do it. Up above, these handrails, again, traditional Broom, so if you're out doing some offshore stuff and you're coming in through this area, you've got something to hang on to. Let's head on forward first of all. Your galley is separate, that's down a couple of steps, but because it's positioned right next to the saloon, it's still quite nicely linked. So if you're in there rustling for a bit of lunch, you can still chat to people in the saloon, and in fact it's really convenient for handing food up to this dining area. All electric cooking, microwave, sinks underneath here, fridge and so on. And then over on the other side, this is quite nice, they've got dedicated storage for all of your crockery. So they slot into here, stops it all rattling around when you're out at sea. And you've got these fellas here. What are these for, you ask? I've got absolutely no idea. I thought they were to hold the plates and stop them rattling, but they're not, because they go in above it. So if anybody knows what those are, I would be intrigued to know. Okay, let's head on to the front of the boat. So big cabin up in the bow with a centerline double bed. And of course you've got storage, big wardrobes, more storage over there. Nice sized cabin. And there is a big skylight up above it, so you've got ventilation and also a route out from the front of the boat in an emergency. Now, Brooms are very well known for their cabinetry. So you look at the woodwork in this, and it's just really beautifully done. Very, very nice. And behind this door, if we close that over, there's an ensuite. Pop the lights on. There we go. That's got a separate shower stall, so that screen rotates around it. And then you've got obviously your usual facilities. But there's actually a door there that goes back to the main passage, so that's not just an ensuite to this cabin, it's also your day toilet and a toilet for the cabin next door. Obviously the trick when you're in there, lock both doors. So this is that other cabin. Bunk beds in here, but they're proper full adult size, and there's good headroom in here as well. As you walk in, you've got plenty of space to come in here, get changed, drawers for your clothes, that kind of thing. So it's a decent guest cabin. But the real killer feature of an aft cabin boat, and again, remember this is 45 feet because it is quite impressive, is when we head back. So normally on a boat of this style, you get to here, saloon doors, out into the cockpit. On this one, your steps up to the cockpit, and that then gives you the height to put an entire cabin beneath it. Look at that. Now that in a 45-foot boat is incredible. It's the full beam of the boat. You can just see the portholes on this side and then again on that side, and those are windows at the back of the boat. But that feels more like a bedroom than a cabin. If you're cruising on the boat for long periods of time, that's a really lovely area to be able to come to at night. It's also very private because, of course, your guests, they're up at that end of the boat, through the saloon and down, and they're up there. So you're down here on your own, which is nice. And because it's right at the very back of the boat, you've also got windows. These blinds are rather clever. If I just push there, that slides across, and that is the very back of the boat. So normally you'd have a nice view out over the ocean from there. Today we've got a boardwalk and a car park. But anyway, you get the idea. What's clever with these blinds is you pull this one this way. I can release it. There we go. That's a fly screen. So you can have the hatch open, but that stops the bugs coming in at night. Or if you want to close it off so you don't get any light at night, that's the way to do it. The ensuite on this cabin is over on this side. And this, of course, is private completely for this cabin. So there's toilet, sink, and then a separate shower stall. Thusly. Love this little dressing area on this side. But what a great feature that is. And on a 45-foot boat, as I say, amazing. And what I was mentioning earlier about it being a very boaty boat, with the way they've done this woodwork and the portholes and so on, it feels like you're on a boat, which is kind of the idea, really, isn't it? Distribution panel, just as we go past, is out here. So this is all your ship's systems and your 240-volt systems. So that's easy to get to. And the engines are under the floor here. I'm not going to show you those because that requires lifting the carpet and getting the hatches up. So we're not going to worry about that today. But as I say, a pair of Volvo Pentas in there, D9 500s, gives you 1,000 horsepower in total. So that's it. Now you might think, well, there aren't a huge amount of aft cabin boats about. If they're so good, why is that? My theory is that because normally on a boat like this, when they build them, they build the boat from here. This is all the interior stops here, and then you're outside. So in terms of the expensive bit, fitting out the interior, all the woodwork and all the hard work, it stops when you get to there. On this boat, you've got another, what, quarter of the boat, maybe a third of the boat going back to fit out. So they were more expensive when they were new. But from a second-hand perspective, I think they're fantastic. So there you go, that is the Broom 450. I hope that's been an interesting boat to have a look around. If you've enjoyed that, do give the thumbs up a click, and if you hit subscribe and the little bell, it'll let you know of more videos coming, of which there are many. So I hope we'll see you around for those ones. Thanks for watching, take care, catch you again, bye bye.